The Cub has been pre-flighted and all fueled up. Now that my passenger is here, we'll get loaded up, turn out from the seaplane dock at the Petersburg Seaplane Base, and taxi out from the seaplane harbor into the Wrangell Narrows. As I'm starting to taxi out here, the Beaver is coming into the seaplane base harbor. So I'm going to stay over here to the left and I'll let the Beaver come in on the right. There's plenty of room for us to go by each other. The prevailing wind here in Petersburg in the Wrangell Narrows is usually out of the northeast. So when I get here out of the seaplane harbor, I'm going to take a turn to the left, taxi down for a ways to let my engine temperatures warm up and stabilize before I turn to take off to the northeast. Fortunately, there's not much boat traffic out here today. Sometimes you get a bunch of boats tied up at that big dock there off on the right, and you get the fuel dock over here on the left, and you get the seine boats in trying to get fuel and get unloaded, and the gillnet boats in here, and then sport fishing boats and all the rest of it. It can get kind of hairy out here coming out of the seaplane base or coming into it. Some of these long taxis can get kind of boring, as well as some of the flights between different spots, especially here in the Cub. So I'm going to kick it in the afterburner and speed up to 16 times the recording speed for some of these areas where it's a little bit long and boring. Engine's all warmed up. Pre-takeoff checklist is completed. The area is clear. Going to go ahead and turn into the breeze, what little breeze there is here, and do my takeoff run to the northeast. The city of Petersburg will be on the right. Mainly what we see there is the harbor with lots of boats and stuff. There'll be some big buildings coming up on the right. The first one is a green building. It's the Ocean Beauty Seafoods plant, processing plant, fish processing plant. Then there'll be a small harbor, and then two more processing plants. The first one is a Trident processing plant, and the second one is the Icicle Seafoods processing plant. Right behind the Icicle Seafoods processing plant, there's a large blue building. That's the Petersburg School. And the downtown area is right here, just off the water's edge. That's the big downtown of Petersburg, Alaska. The north end of the Wrangell Narrows opens up into Frederick Sound. Over across that body of water is the mainland. Those mountains, the ones you can see there, the bluffs, go up to about 3,000 feet, but the mountains just behind that go up to about 8,000 or 9,000 feet. Very spectacular on a clear day. I'm going to go ahead and turn to the east here to the right and head down Frederick Sound towards Ernest Sound, and we're going to go by Wrangell. The little point you see there just on the right is Frederick Point. We're going to go on by that. And I'll kick it in gear here, hit the afterburner again, and kick it up to 16 times the recording speed until we get to something interesting again. Just to the left of the nose is the opening into LeConte Bay. That goes back into a glacier. That's the southernmost tidewater glacier in the United States. And pretty much straight ahead of us there is the north arm of the Seine River where it comes out. The Seine River breaks up into three arms as it comes out, and this is the north arm here, comes out into Frederick Sound. The other two arms come out into Sumner Straits. We're coming down here to the end of Frederick Sound now, and we'll come into what's called Dry Straits. It's a real narrow strait between the Mitkoff Island, which is on the right, and that's Farm Island on the left, which is almost part of the mainland now. This little section here goes pretty much dry at low tide. They used to haul logs through here, but the tugs kept it open. But now it has been years since that's happened, so you got to have a pretty high tide to get through there. We just went over the middle arm of the Stikine River and the Stikine River Delta, and we're coming up on the south arm. And the little peninsula there just coming into view on the right, that's where Wrangell is, and Wrangell Airport will just be visible here on the right as we go by it. We're skirt the mainland here, right tight against it and down low, so we don't interfere with the traffic, any traffic that might be in at Wrangell Airport. And then I'll cross over and skirt along Wrangell Island and go through a little pass down here. This is the Blakely Channel. They call it the back channel, and it looks like it ends down here, but it goes to the left through a real narrow passage and then continues on down into Ernest Sound. We're going to come down here to where this pocket is. It's called Earl West Cove, and then go through a little pass there and come out into Ernest Sound. Actually, we're going to come out into Fool's Inlet, and there's a stream there that's a salmon stream. We'll do a quick survey of that to see if there's any fish in it before we head on out into Ernest Sound. Coming down into the salmon stream in Fool's Inlet now. There's actually two little streams here, but they come together as they go out into the tide water. It's called the intertidal area that's affected by the tide zone, and that's usually where the fish will be in the early part of the season. They'll come up to the top of the intertidal area and kind of hold there until they get ready to go upstream to spawn. So we'll be flying over this and trying to keep a view of the channel underneath us to see if there's any fish in it. This stream drains a pretty big area back behind us, and there's been a lot of heavy rain, so it's pretty tannic. All the tannins in the soil get washed out, and it turns the water to a real dark chocolate or coffee color, so it's really hard to see if there's anything in there. But we'll follow that stream out, and then we'll fly along this shoreline here along Fools and look to see if we can see any schools of fish coming into the bay. We're coming out of Fool's Inlet into Ernest Sound, and right across from us here is Point Ward. That's the easternmost open area for the fishermen here. And there's a couple of fishing boats down here right near this marker, this boundary. We're going to slow down here and fly over those and get the names of those boats before we turn to the left and go up into Ann Creek to do a stream survey in Ann Creek. bay in front of Ann Creek now, and I'm going to fly around over the shoreline so we can look out into the salt water and look for any schools of fish out here in the bay that may be going into it. And then we'll come over and fly up the stream. Now there's several sections of the stream that we check pretty close. There's a lagoon that's a saltwater lagoon that the fish go into and kind of hold up there. There's rapids there, and they go up the rapids and kind of hold in it. Then there's a big falls there that kind of stops them for a little bit. They'll go over that set of falls, and then there's another slow spot there that they'll kind of rest up in, and then there's another set of falls that they've got to navigate before they get up into the main river. The lower falls is a pretty good barrier, and that's where the fish stop quite a bit, and that attracts bears into it. So there's a viewing station there that people come to, and they go up there in the platform and watch the bears feed on salmon. And we'll go up the creek here. I try to stay over the stream pretty close to keep it in view, so I wind up slipping or skidding up and down the stream here, keeping one wing low over it so that the biologist in the back seat can get the best view I can provide for him down in the stream and get the best counts he can. We'll circle over the salt chuck a little bit there, the inner area, and then over the falls a little bit, and then we'll go on up the stream. We'll get up there as far as I can. Now today we don't get all the way up to the top because the ceiling is a little bit limited up there, but I get up there as far as I can, and then we'll turn around and come back down the stream. So the biologist will count the fish going up the stream and then back down the stream and kind of compare the numbers. I can watch the stream myself to try to keep it in view and see where the fish are so I can give the biologist the best view, but I have to split my concentration between that and flying. And as we get up in here, this valley gets a little bit narrow, and then we get to add in this little bit of whiffy fog and clouds and stuff. It can be kind of challenging, but today is actually a pretty good day for this one. As we finish up on Annan Creek, you can see coming up just straight ahead of us the lower end of Blakely Channel, or the back channel. That's Blakely Island there that divides it. Then off to the right is Bradfield Canal, and we're headed back down into Ernest Sound. We're going to follow this shoreline here back to Ward Point, and we're going to be looking for fish, and then I'm going to cross over Ward Point and drop down in elevation to about 100 feet, plus or minus 100 feet, and we'll start doing a boat vessel survey here, boat count again. Now the boats turn in fish tickets when they sell their fish, and that fish tickets come to Fish and Game. It tells them how many fish they caught, which boat caught how many fish, but it doesn't tell them where they caught the fish. So we come out here and do a vessel survey, get the names of the boats and where they're fishing, and then the biologists can correlate the boats where they're fishing with how many fish they caught, and that can give them another tool in their management process, so they can see how many fish are coming in. If, like here, there's not very many being caught, it's late in the season, there's not very many in the streams, it tells them that there's a problem with this fishery. If the boats are catching a lot of fish, then that tells them that the fishing returns are going to be good. And it's just another arsenal in their toolbox. It gives them an idea what's out there before they actually get into the streams where they can be counted. Now we're also looking for fish, and at this altitude we have to be down this low to see the names on the boats. And at this altitude you can't really see the schools of fish coming along, but you can see fish jumping pretty clearly, especially on a day like today when the water is pretty flat. It's nice and calm today, and you can see fish jumping for a long ways. Seeing this boat running here towards the other end of the fishery, the district, tells us that the fish must not be too good at the south end of the district either, or he'd still be there fishing. Coming up on the southwest entrance of Seward Passage, Deer Island is to the right of us, Cleveland Peninsula is to the left of us, a couple of boats fishing right here. Straight ahead, the point up there that's coming up straight ahead is Point Eaton. That'll be the southwestern limit of this district. That's where most of the boats will be fishing. So we'll fly through the fleet there, take names and numbers, and then we'll climb up and do some more fish surveying. Fish coming into the upper Ernest Sound and the Bradfield Canal have a tendency to kind of stack up, come in and hit this bluff here, the shoreline first, and they'll kind of stop there. So that's one of the places we looked real close for fish. was going to fly along that and take a close look at them, but the water is really calm out here today, and we could see several disturbances out here in the deeper water over there around that Sunrise Island, which is just passing under the nose now, and several places out here. So we circled around here quite a bit, trying to figure out what was going on there. There were no jumpers, and we couldn't see any definition to the schools that we could see down there, so we couldn't determine if they were salmon or not. But we tried really hard to make them into salmon, circled them several times, and then we went ahead and turned and went back over to the shoreline there south of Emerald Bay, and then flew back along the shoreline, again looking for fish leaving the beach there in Emerald Bay and along those bluffs. Well, try as we might, we just couldn't make them into any more fish, so it's time to start heading home. There's another boat fishing over here near Deer Island, and we're going to head over there and get the name of that boat. And then we'll turn across Ernest Sound again, across the lower side of the Niblack Islands, and over towards Bronson Island. There's a guy fishing over there, so we'll get this guy's name and his location, and then we'll cross back over and get the guy over on Bronson Island, and then we'll come back around and start heading home again. Well, we've condensed down an hour and 45 minutes of flying into about 27 minutes, so it's time to head home before the batteries go dead. We're up the upper end now of Ernest Sound again. Actually, Ernest Sound goes quite a ways back in that way, but we're going to turn and go up Zimovia Straits. There's two more boats that we discovered here kind of hiding in this little cove, but they really didn't count for what we're looking for. They're tenders, and they're the ones, the boats that the other boats offload their fish on if they get filled up. Not much chance of that.